Multilingual storytelling. What an interesting and amazing question. So, being a multilingual writer, what I noticed is when you're creating something and you're using the language as a tool, uh, it's a loop of like a feedback loop of you using the language and then the language backwards shaping the way you think and the way you see the world. So there are these studies that show that people who speak different languages, they actually experience the world differently and they tend to think differently. And also the availability of certain notions in the language or their absence or their presence or their absence, these concepts, they shape people's ability to also experience those notions. It's like, the example that is probably used to the point of being an anecdote, but for the nations, especially indigenous nations, who are more connected to nature, they have more different words to denote different parts of nature, like different kinds of snow or different kinds of colors, or there are some people and their languages that do not have the equivalence of the tenses that we are used to having in the Western tradition or in the languages like the English language. So it is impossible sometimes to even do the translation from one language to another, just because these languages both express and shape different realities that cannot be, like translated like page to page. So when doing the translation, you don't translate word for word, you do the adaptation that would be, that's the first law of translation, that would be having the same effect in the target language as it did in the original one. So when translating a joke, you don't translate a joke, you just invent a joke that would do that would create the same humorous resonance in the target language as it did have in the original. So the same as with the concepts related to environment and nature. And so literally when writing in my native language in Ukrainian and when writing in English, I'm a different kind of a thinker. I build my sentences differently. I think differently because I'm submerged into that language, for example, into Ukrainian or into English. And the language structure is basically predetermined, and also the concepts and the tradition, the cultural tradition of my people. So when thinking about the audience who would read my work, for example, in Ukrainian, and the audience that is probably more international and multicultural that can access the same story or a similar story in English, those will not be the same stories. So they will not be word for word translations. They will be based on the same idea, but this idea will sound differently and appeal differently to different language carriers, to people who speak different languages. So yeah, this is a very, very interesting question and a very intricate one. But yeah, what about the ELIZA funding? I am not sure. I'm again an expert in this because usually, as with everything that is related to environmental movements and the idea of protecting the planet, um, all of it or most of it is in the realm of being underfunded, I would say. So the best I can do, for example, as a writer, is to submit to a publication that is a paying market. And I am very pleased to notice that there are more and more journals that are eager to publish climate fiction and solar punk. And there are even new emerging genres such as soil punk. So different stories and different creative projects related to the soil as tech, soil as the basis of life. So I'm seeing this growth in the paying markets in the niche of climate fiction, and this is really good. So for me as a writer and other writers, it is really a good time to be alive and to be a climate fiction writer or environmental or eco writer. Because basically these stories are gaining traction and they appear niches that are eager even to pay for these kinds of stories. Again, probably because stories are a big part currently of the systems change movement.